and welcome to this episode of Trident Talks. I'm Rosie, a senior consultant over at Trident, and I'm delighted to be joined by the founders of FluidCloud. Now, before I ramble on, which I can definitely do with an intro and everything, I'm sure the listeners would much prefer to hear from you both a little bit about your background and what really got you into the positions you are today.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. So I'm Sharad. I'm the CEO and the co-founder at FluidCloud.
My name is Harshit. I'm co-founder and CTO at FluidCloud.
So, this is practically our third company and second startup together.
Wow.
Uh, yeah. And when the startup, the previous one, when it exited, we were acquired by Tenable. And when we were acquired by Tenable, it took us a couple of months to go from AWS one account to another account. And that's where we kind of thought that this has to that somebody has to deal with this and solve this problem. And that's how the idea of Fluid Cloud was born. And then we started building the product and working on it together.
Awesome. So you guys had then like first-hand experience of the problem, kind of that, I guess, like aha moment, because you guys were going through it. It wasn't like a customer came to you and thought, I need help solving this. You actually kind of lived that experience. I guess that's the inspiration. I guess diving into your backgrounds a little bit more. I know you've obviously kind of worked together multiple times, which is always a fantastic thing. I think thinking about founders that almost have that bond and obviously know how each other kind of work. What's your background like specifically, I guess, prior to FluidCloud and prior to that organization that you founded?
Yeah, prior to Fluid Cloud, I was the previous company which I co-founded, which was you know the which was acquired by Tenable, and then before that, I was working for a company called Pulse Secure, and within Pulse Secure, that's where my stint with security started, and that was a spun off from Juniper and Juniper Networks, and all the way doing taking care of the spun off. Building the whole company alongside like assisting building the whole company. And before that I was with Cisco and Flextronics. So and Cisco, I came to Cisco through WebEx. That was one fun acquisition through that, which we when we came to WebEx. So that's how we kind of ended up here.
So just on my side, I've been individual contributor my whole life actually, and in the last startup, I was one of the founding engineer where more than like majority of the code contribution was mine. Where when we started with literally nothing, and most of the code was written by scratch from my. I mean, I wrote a lot of microservices myself. The first 1.0 version of those. And by the time we got acquired, we had like 19 microservices. We had like almost a bigger, like we have done 3 to 4 times of re-architecture of the whole product. So I was part of a lot of core aspects as well. So my whole life I've like played around with with cloud providers. We had a CSPM, like a cloud security on Terraforms on each cloud providers, AWS, Azure, and GCP. So yeah, as with Fluid Cloud, I was one of that core member team who was actually facing that acquisition problem where we were trying to consolidate the accounts. And 2023 and 2024 kind of has been a disruptive year for infrastructure world, where VMware acquisition happened. They changed licenses, increased the price, and in fact, HashiCorp has this Terraform, which is widely used, well adopted in the whole industry. They also changed their licenses. It's no longer open source. So people kind of wanted to have some kind of an alternative to their existing cloud infrastructure. And that's where we have been facing this situation. This comes up with a merger and acquisition or many other scenarios. So yeah.
Awesome. It seems like you hit the market at the right time, especially in the last
Yeah.
couple of years. Good. Okay, it's good to know. I guess in thinking about kind of the early days, maybe when that kind of acquisition was going on, what were some of the biggest kind of challenges from transitioning from that kind of product idea, platform idea to actually launching? I appreciate you've gone through the process a few times, so it might be a different scenario to like a first-time founder. But yeah, what were those challenges?
So, first of all, the challenge was like, obviously it's something like fairly new, right? Nobody has done it, where people do things manually. Like there are consulting companies. If somebody has to change their cloud provider, you actually tend to hire a consultant with a different cloud provider, and it increases your engineering effort of, as you become multi-cloud, you would then have to have a DevOps team dedicated for each cloud provider. So if I have been developing AWS, and so yeah, it was fairly difficult when we were like thinking initially to train a lot of AI models and do a lot of things on generating of Terraforms, like kind of people are doing with code generation. But we wasted our 4 months with AI, and we did not had that success with AI. So we kind of went back and built everything from scratch. So the whole mapping engine which we have developed, which is the mapping between the services, between the attributes, taking care of all those, our values, what becomes what in one cloud to another. So that is fairly a very big task, because just a sheer amount of, if I can just give you a brief about, so the
Yeah.
services, different cloud services cloud providers have, it's massive. Like there are some infrastructure as service, offerings. There are some platform as a service offerings, and that goes into thousands for AWS, Azure, and GCP. And we had like, for almost 1 year, we were in stealth mode. We were building that mapping engine, where when we wanted to have that confidence, it is scalable. It can handle any amount of workload, any amount of, enterprise needs. So that's when we build that engine. We spend a lot of time and engineering effort on that. You want to add something?
Yeah, no, I think that's
Awesome. Okay, thank you for kind of running through that. I think kind of what you touched upon there, I think in your seed announcement, I wrote this down that you talk about kind of multi-cloud isn't just possible, it's kind of essential. I think that was kind of one of the sentences there. Can you kind of elaborate on that more? I know you just touched upon it there. And I guess more about the platform specifically, kind of if you can run for, get as technical as you want, that's absolutely fine. Our listeners are technical people, about kind of how you implement, what you're actually trying to achieve.
sure. So at this point in time, with given all the outages happening, I don't think so. Internet was practically down for good 36 hours with 3 outages, or maybe more than that. Uh, Problem was people were stuck in their current cloud provider, and that's where I think in this world, if we can provide that switch where if a service is down somewhere else, you don't need to take down the whole internet. Your resilience, like the resilience is built in such a fashion that you will be up and running in no time. That's what we are able to achieve, and that's where we have the concept of multi-cloud active, and then that's what we kind of are bringing to the market. I think with given the price increase of the cloud service provider, sometimes they have the monopolistic behavior. When we as he said that recently VMware increased the price by 1,000% almost. They gave a cease and desist letter to the perpetual license holders. The geopolitical scenario, where I'd like there's a lot going on within the geopolitical scenario. People are looking for sovereign cloud, right? And then also there are so many areas where people are thinking of repatriation, like might as well go back to the data centers. All of those kind of things kind of put almost an imperative condition to multi-cloud. Uh, with rise of AI, people are either they give their whole like they need to move to the other cloud provider, which is actually giving them more credits. They have more services, and the current cloud provider doesn't provide enough services, and they want to have distributed workload across the cloud. So all of those kind
Mm.
of reasons are need like are making multi-cloud the right approach for today. So
Adoption.
it's that multi-cloud is like, yeah, good to have, but it's like almost I need to have.
Yeah, yeah. It makes sense because what, like a month ago when the AWS kind of thing happened where everything went down. I mean, obviously I'm based in London and half the tube system stopped working because it relied, yeah, so we had like half the people in the office and half not because of the different kind of ways we were meant to be getting into the office. And I think it showed kind of obviously different organizations, not just the tube system, that they need to
Yeah.
start kind of rethinking that and adopting that multi-cloud approach. It seems like that's obviously what kind of Fluid Cloud is pushing, which is fantastic. And I think it's something as small as that. Like I'm sure this happens kind of in everyday life really, but it's only when something so menial as a tube system going down that it really affects everyone to
Yeah.
realize maybe you need to adopt a different approach.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the services which were impacted were like we are using it every single day. Snapchat was down. Like when
Mm.
Cloudflare went down, the funny story when what people are saying, the down detector was down. So where will I check which service is up? I went to X to post my frustration, but X was down, and I went to Grok to check out what's going on, but Grok was down.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it came as a meme, but it's so true. It's a chain effect. People don't
Mm.
realize that part. It's everything can go down, and that's where this multi-cloud resilience, uh, it's not a good to have at this point in time for many companies which have a huge SLAs on the services.
And so yeah, it's a has to have. I guess thinking about then again back to kind of your early days when creating the product and the platform or anything, were there any assumptions or pivots that you made quite early on that have changed in the recent months? And I appreciate that's quite a loaded question because you're in an early stage startup and I'm sure everything kind of changes every month pretty much. But has there been like a big 180 or that you've seen happen?
Actually, surprisingly, no, because
Oh wow.
we sometimes, we had some early stage last year, like, we were talking to some of the investors, and what we have given them a blurb or a snippet is exactly what we do. So we were like kind of thinking back because when we build a startup, right, we build on a vision.
Mhm.
And typically what happens is regular stuff, because this is not our first startup. So generally, and we have done this mistakes in our last startup as well, where, we kind of build something on a cool idea, but we did not check the market. Like, whether it is ready, whether people. So we built a whole thing on Terraform, and in 2019 there was like hardly any Terraform adoption. So we had to then build on runtime security and stuff like that. We kind of had to pivot, and this is where typically for every startup. But when we wanted to start Flute Cloud, we knew what is the pain. But then went ahead and we did this research on talking to a lot of head of infrastructure, talking to CTOs, and the technology enthusiasts about for various bigger organizations. And this is really a big pain point because in order to have a multi-cloud, you need to solve the problem of cloud portability, and in order to solve the cloud portability means you have to actually maintain each cloud provider as a separate teams, and that's a huge engineering effort. Nobody builds the systems from day one being resilient, right? So that is always an afterthought. So we kind of went back and we had this vision, and we backtrack it. What are the steps to build achieve that vision? And so far there's zero pivot, and we have been
Wow.
talking the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I find myself very lucky, and we find ourselves very lucky to be in this position. The first pitch deck we had, uh, for the investors kept on asking us, well, this is too much, that is too much, this is too less, that is too much. And we kind of did some iterations based on investors, but when we look at when we are talking to the customers, we are going back to the investor slide,
Original.
like the original,
Yeah.
the OG slide.
Wow.
When we look at it, it's like As an operator, world is different than as an investor. So we went back to our roots, and I think I think, and the way it works out, Rosie, is because when the vision is set, you take all the decisions accordingly. What happens with most of the startups, if there is like they're running a infrastructure startup and suddenly there is an AI wave. Now there is an AI infrastructure startup. So and then suddenly there'll be an agentic wave. So now there'll be an agentic infrastructure AI startup. So people build startups based on what investor wants to listen.
Yeah.
Problem is they don't build the startup based on what the user or the customer wants to really get. And in this scenario, we have been the super user. So we face this problem. And that's how like most of the best startups are actually built like that.
Yeah, and I think kind of like you said there, obviously you're lucky in a sense that you've been through it before. So you've made the mistakes, you've made maybe the pivots before, and you're able to have that clear vision when going to customers and everything. But I think you're right. It's not like you're following what the investors want or what the space is saying they want. Like thinking about the agentic AI space, I think if you were a year ago early on and had an incredible product, there's an amazing time to adopt it. But kind of a year later, it feels like there's 1,000 different agentic AI stock organizations that are coming up that are doing amazing, don't get me wrong, but I think it's
Yeah.
almost like if everyone's already talking about it, you've kind of got to it a little bit late. Whereas you guys are obviously doing something that is really needed in the market, but maybe not being spoken about as much.
Yeah, and this is a 20-year-old problem. It's like everyone wanted this thing. Our next best alternative is a consulting company. Like
Yeah.
we are currently working with SIs. It's not that we don't work with SIs, but the thing is with us, the cost for them to investment for them to actually do the cloud portability is much lesser. They can actually do now take more projects because there's a huge backlog within the cloud service providers themselves. So even the SIs have cloud service providers. If they get a huge project, it just takes a couple of months or weeks to
Yeah.
just get the recruitment done.
Yeah, because you've got to hire people and then they actually need to do the job as well. No, it's interesting. It's a really interesting conversation, to be honest. I guess kind of moving away from that, we have touched upon it a little bit. Your platform is kind of described as is it cloud cloning capability? Could you go, I guess, into a little bit more about how that works specifically in practice?
Yep.
Sure. So
Absolutely.
yeah, cloud cloning is, I mean, it's super interesting, right? We believe generally people do have organizations, they have their own set of workflows, their own custom deployment, requirements and stuff. And we want to not increase that friction. Hey, try out something new and then you'll will. No, we believe in frictionless onboarding. It's as smooth as possible. So a customer doesn't have to change their existing workflows, how they are doing. So how cloud cloning basically works is, as long as you give us access, a read-only access to your cloud infrastructure, we can just see what is running, where is running, and kind of build the inventory for you. Take a snapshot of your infrastructure, and we do that really well. Like, just to give a numbers, uh, infrastructure which would have 100,000 resources, a cloud footprint which is around 100,000 resources, for any big company which is a CSPM giant, would take around 1 hour to 7 hours to discover all that. We can do that in 30 seconds.
Wow.
So, so it's near real time infrastructure
Yeah.
snap. And once that snapshot is taken, it is cloud agnostic. So a snapshot taken from an AWS infrastructure, you can just convert that into any other like Azure, GCP, OCI, Vulture. A snapshot take. Matter of fact, the way we have developed our architecture, when we scan the VMware environment, we develop the VMware terraforms as well. So isn't that crazy? Actually, somebody can just. So we bring in all those DevOps
Yeah.
best practices, we reduce the friction, and we make it as smooth as possible for anybody to use it. It's very intuitive. The product is so easy that even somebody who has mm, been a DevOps will become a power DevOps. If somebody doesn't have a DevOps background, he can still do all those DevOps
Wow.
workflows. So that's the idea what we are trying to bring it here.
Yeah.
I was going to
And
ask. Oh, sorry.
primarily the cloud cloning, the word, the way it originated when we were actually pitching it to one of the customers.
Mhm.
Uh, the we were trying to showcase, hey, look, you want to go from VMware to X cloud provider, and boom, look, it's done. It's like less than 10 minutes, and you have just built the whole landing zone. And it's like, yeah, I like it, but my VMware is still running. It's like, okay. So it's no, you're not a migration tool. It's a
Yeah.
cloud cloning platform. You just cloned my cloud environment. And that's it. So customer actually proposed that it's a cloud cloning. And then we also realized that migration is like a thing is like it moves from one to another. We just kind of create the whole clone of from one cloud to another cloud. And that's the reason it's the cloning, not just it's not a migration. And then we have a couple of other capabilities on top of
Wow.
cloning.
Awesome. I mean, that answered a question I was going to ask a little bit later. How is it different from those kind of traditional, I guess, like migration tools, but it's just completely different. It's not a migration tool at all. Um, I guess the question is as well, how are developers kind of, I guess, what's their feedback? How are they reacting to it? I know it's obviously kind of faster, which is great. It's like taking up less time so they're actually able to do the job they're like employed to do. But obviously developers, let's say, don't always love new product introductions. What's the feedback you guys are getting?
Today, maybe Harshit, you want
Yeah,
to?
so some of the feedbacks, like the developers, they don't want just a migration tool, like just dump it. Everything is
Mm.
now here. They also want a way to like continue managing the newer environments as well. So some of the like I cannot name the customers, but they have
That's
said,
fine.
and they some of the quote says like you guys have really cracked the the uh, tool, and the product is awesome. This is exactly what I need. In fact, there was one of the head of infrastructure we were talking to, and he was like, okay, people don't want speed. People don't want speed. They want accuracy. And we said, what if we give you speed as well as the accuracy? And he said, okay, that will be like dream come true. And then we showed it. It's like, oh, so yeah.
Because just I can give you some data fact, like to move 5,000 cloud resources for, and I mean, you can try it, or users can actually try to do that in Chat GPT. Maybe they can just do a GPT of how much time it will take to move 5,000 cloud resources from uh, one cloud provider to another cloud provider, all the way from planning to testing. The answer which might actually come would be somewhere around 7 to 9 months. And if somebody is a super user, it will be maybe 7 to 14 weeks, but that's minimum. We can do
Yeah.
that activity in less than maybe 10 minutes or
The-
15.
I mean, the terraforms can be like
Yeah. So
instantly, but deployment might
Wow.
take 15 minutes or 30
yeah,
minutes, whatever.
15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's the power of what we are doing. So it's almost like we are building a killer switch to move stuff from one to another. And then what we want to give and what we want to believe is in freedom. And
Wow.
that's where we get people that this is the power which we give to our users, which is freedom to innovate.
I love that. Yeah. And I mean, when you kind of lay it out like that, and I guess let like users actually play with the product and you get to demo it and everything like that, and thinking about, because we were talking about developers there, it's kind of one of those things that why wouldn't they want to adopt this tool, because it's saving them so much time. Thinking about something that could be 7 months down to potentially 10 minutes is a huge change if we're using that example.
That's
Um,
correct.
awesome. Well, I guess we've talking a bit, we spoke a bit about kind of the product and the kind of founding story and everything like that. I guess what does the next kind of like 6 to 12 months look? Is it going to be like expanding on, you don't need to give insights to this, by the way, on expanding on the product, or is it expanding globally? What does this look like?
Yeah. So from an expansion perspective, I think the first thing which comes to our focus is, we want as much adoption from the user base perspective as we kind of strengthen this product with our partnerships from the cloud service providers. which is going to be a key one. This is like we already have really great customers. We're very lucky to have them, and then the feedback which we are receiving is phenomenal. That helps us strengthen the product more and more as we kind of goes into the expansion mode. And then I think after a couple of weeks or months, I think we get into the gear of like 50 to 100, and then from 100 to 200 uh company. So that's the kind of motion we are looking at. From product perspective, there are a lot of things which are coming in the future. But yeah, would love to keep it as a surprise as
As it should.
yeah.
Yeah, it should. And everyone, I'm sure, well, I will be watching kind of the space very, very closely. Well, look, I appreciate you kind of joining us today for this initial conversation and would love to, I guess, revisit it in a 6 months or so. We can do another podcast diving into, I guess, what's changed within the last 6 months, because I'm sure something would have come up. There's probably going to be another AWS outage or whatever cloud platform, so we can dive into that. And if anyone did want to kind of reach out, learn more about what you guys are doing, where would be best to go?
Yeah, if somebody wants to reach out, they can go to our website, and or either they can directly write to me, which is sharad@fluidcloud.com. I think we would love to engage with whoever is interested.
Awesome. And we'll put all the details kind of in our Spotify and YouTube and LinkedIn so that they can find you really easily and learn more about what you guys are doing. But I'm excited to see kind of what the future holds.